The Weep Cup runneth over in 2023 with some of the best shows, animation, and character writing the medium has had to offer, all jammed into a single year. And as a Fuju, I realized as early as March, we've been eating good. So to celebrate this new unprecedented abundance, I decided to start a new series. Hi, I'm Green Tea Gal, and here are the best ships of 2023. Thorfinn and Einar. Vinland Saga, Season 2. Vinland Saga started off as Thorfinn's visceral coming-of-age story, where all his problems were caused and solved with violence, where he lived only for revenge. But after about 10 years of war and even being sold into slavery, Thorfinn is now the oldest 19-year-old you ever saw, shambling through life in a numb silence until he meets the freshly purchased slave Einar one day, who takes one look at the feeling sorry for himself Thorfinn and screams at him until he realizes how lucky he is just to be alive. After that, Thorfinn's mental health seems to rapidly improve. The time he spends working the land with Einar helps him slowly piece himself back together, learn to feel his feelings, and remember what it means to be a person and not just a weapon. I mean, sure, it takes an entire village to raise one Thorfinn, but Einar ends up being Thorfinn's narrative foil. He slowly fills in the gaps in Thorfinn's lack of life experience. He teaches him about farming and seeds and how to use his strength to grow life instead of snuffing it out. Einar even comforts him through his night terrors. He constantly calls him on his sad sack bullshit, but also becomes a sympathetic ear when Thorfinn finally opens up to him, to anyone, about his fears, his pain, and eventually his mad hope for a future without war. Einar's a friend to him, a real friend. Maybe the only one he's had since leaving Iceland. Einar is nothing but a positive influence on Thorfinn's life, and now much brighter future. And by the end of episode 10, Thorfinn actually laughs and smiles for the first time in forever. Honestly, if there was a masterclass in positive masculinity, it's Vinland Saga. By the end of season 2, Thorfinn and Einar have made a pact to carve out a safe haven from war for anyone who needs it, with Einar by his side every step of the way. Kazuki and Rei, buddy daddies. While much of the series focuses on the buddy daddies actively trying to raise a kid while juggling their violent day jobs, their relationship to each other is left purposefully vague. Are they friends, lovers, partners in crime, all of the above? It's never plainly stated, but luckily we do see snatches of chemistry and more than friends energy between them from time to time, especially during flashbacks and the annoyingly rare moments when they're actually alone together. And I couldn't help but notice the hot tub built for two in their bathroom. Before becoming a violent power couple, life with the boys was pretty f***ing terrible. Kazuki being a new widower, and Rei raises an assassin by an abusive, emotionally absent father, left them both as scarred, jaded hitmen living half-lives in the shadows. But the naturally nurturing Kazuki saw what awful shape depressed shut-in Rei was in, and made it his mission to bring him back to life, even moving into his apartment, cleaning up, and giving him a sponge bath. And over the course of the show, they both find their smiles again, and a new family raising media together. In each other, they found something worth protecting. The show even doubles down by managing to kill Meaty's mom off twice, once with her impending throat cancer, and then again via hitman set by Rei's controlling mafioso father. It's like they couldn't get rid of her fast enough, also that they could re-establish their two men and a baby status quo. They even vow to quit their hitman jobs to be a real family and real fathers to Meaty. And even by the series' end, Kazuki and Rei's relationship remains murky, so that the audience concentrates on the atypical family unit making it work part of the plot, instead of the unspoken, are they gay, are they bi, what are they, I need labels subplot. Them possibly being unfit parents because they're hitmen is a great stand-in for the always bigoted argument of them possibly being unfit parents because they're gay, or pine. It's genius, really. Finn and Chris. High Card. High Card's main leads are both hard luck orphans, so they seem to understand each other on a level that often doesn't need words. But in quiet moments, the plot allows them to open up to each other and bond in a way that you don't see with the other members of their team. They were actually enemies at first, until Finn is encouraged to work for the same Kinsman-style organization of playing card enhanced badasses. Since Chris is a veteran in the field, he's tasked with showing our newbie the ropes. They go on many missions together, and some of their most memorable moments and greatest feats are when they're rushing to save each other. Chris and Finn are actually fast friends who are in each other's corner from day one, even if they won't admit it. So the show literally has to force their hands in episode 7. A sneaky card user jinxes them to hold hands indefinitely so she can get away. It's played off as a joke most of the time, and most people immediately jump to BL conclusions, because it's impossible not to, and the show is fully aware of that. Towards the end of the series, Chris's master plan is revealed, but he has to jack company property to do it, so he's excommunicado and on the run. Finn already sees Chris's family by episode 11, and he desperately tries to talk him down by telling Chris how much he means to him. But after disobeying direct orders to take Chris down, Finn is fired too, which now frees him up to race to Chris's side again and save him from himself. On spoiler warning if you haven't seen the end of the season. Chris plans to use 4 playing cards at once to heal his terminally ill sister, but at the cost of his life. Exactly the way his father did for him years prior. And Finn knows this, and he's not having it. I'm not going to spoil anymore, but thanks to Finn's quick thinking and impeccable aim, Chris is spared. And after a surprisingly brief hospital stay, they both go right back to work, so the status quo can be re-established before season 2. Shiva and Ruja. Record of Ragnarok Season 2. Record of Ragnarok Season 2 definitely has the longest bromance on this list, as Shiva and Rudra have been cutting up together for centuries. As carefree demigods, they were inseparable chums that spent all their time goofing off, getting swole, and occasionally righting wrongs in their local community, one fistfight in a Waffle House parking lot at a time. Every day was filled with laughter and adventure, and for the beefy brawlers, life was good. Until one day, Rudra decides it's time to stop messing around and go on a quest. The quest. Rudra believing it's his life's calling to stand atop the highest mountain only the strongest god could ever reach. Shiva, the more laid back of the two, had no life goals other than dancing in the sun with his bestie. But seeing how important this was to Rudra, he's like, I bet. And together they proceed to lay hands on no less than 999 gods, racking up acclaim and a fan club that worship them as living legends. And each day with a little victory dance. A lot of dancing in this bromance, not gonna lie. But since we can't have nice things, one fateful day they beat the last of the gods. And Shiva's like, yeah, we won, the quest is over, look at that view. But Rudra realizes there's still one more god left to beat. I can't begin to tell you how much Shiva does not want to fight him. Not because he thinks he'll lose, but because he knows he'll win. This was Rudra's dream, and it kills him to take that away from him. Seeing them hurt each other is actually hard to watch if you're on board with the beefy drama up to this point. There's an appropriate amount of man tears, and Shiva even tries to take a dive and let Rudra win. But Rudra is also not having it. He admits defeat, and Shiva becomes the new god of destruction, and is forced to make the last leg of their shared journey alone. I don't completely understand why they can't be together anymore, but watching them part ways breaks your heart just a little bit.
2,000 years later.
We don't even see them together again until the Ragnarok tournament, where humanity's strongest battle the gods for their survival. Shiva is getting his purple ass handed to him, but after realizing Rudra came to see him, he's able to scrape by with a narrow victory, and hobble over on his few remaining limbs to dap up the homie for the first time in ages. Sagi and Bacha. Blue Lock. Despite how happy-go-lucky he appears in the show, Bachata spent most of his life lonely and misunderstood. Fight back, man! Going as far to create a creepy imaginary friend to play soccer with. So the Blue Lock program itself ends up being a godsend for him, because it's there that he finally makes his first real friend ever.
I'm glad I came here, Isagi, because I got to meet you.
Even with the stress of knowing their future soccer careers are always on the line, Isagi and Bachata thoroughly enjoy their time in Blue Lock. I can't even call it a rivalry because they push each other to keep going, to run further and be better in a surprisingly non-competitive, non-toxic way. Over the first season, their presence or absence in each other's lives only yields positive results. They're not just better soccer players, but more well-rounded people. Especially when their bromance is tested in episode 13, when they actually lose in the first match and they're separated. This is such a massive blow that part of season 2's opening credits in episode 14 are about how much Isagi and Nagi are missing their respective boyfriends. Honestly, there's no shortage of ships in this show. Isagi is at his lowest point emotionally, but the idea of clawing his way back up the ranks to be by Bachata's side again is what keeps him going. He even goes so far as to say he's here to steal Bachata back from Rin in episode 19. He fights tooth and nail to get back to him, and thanks to his constant effort, they're finally reunited in episode 23. It's equal parts adorable and unhinged in the way only a sports anime could pull off. Hushi and Kohaku, To Your Eternity, Season 2. Hushi is an immortal shapeshifter that can take the form of anything that dies near him, which makes this pairing a bit of a mixed bag, as Kohaku's family plays body horror hosts to the Knockers. the only thing in this world that can actually harm Fushi.
I'm Kahaku, 6th successor of Hayase. I am not here to try to seduce you. Unlike many of my female ancestors whom you've met in the past, I'm only interested in women.
Despite being the only male knocker host, Kohaku's role in the story is still to teach Fushi about romance and sexual love, something our still otherworldly protagonist has little knowledge of. Kohaku came on pretty strong when he and girl Fushi first met, and completely fails to prove he's any different from the rest of his down bad family, and the show leans hard on the gender doesn't dictate who you love subplot.
Can you tell me if it's possible for two men to fall in love?
I think so.
So it's no surprise that Kohaku starts to like Fushi no matter what shape he's taken. This be my waifu husbando subplot sounds good on paper.
It's okay, I don't mind. I don't even mind if you change into a man!
Don't touch me!
But after a while, dude tends to come off like a sex pest at best, and a ticking time bomb at worst. The audience is left to wonder if this romance is going to be reciprocated until episode 17 when the fight with the knockers leaves Fushi mentally and physically drained. Kohaku comes to comfort him, and as usual his touch is unmistakably sexual. The first time Kohaku tries to kiss Fushi, it ends badly because of Perona's PTSD. But when he tries to lay hands on Fushi in his usual male form, it's portrayed like a horror movie. It's visceral and sexually charged as Fushi is penetrated by tentacles that literally rip him apart. This obvious grape allegory doesn't do the queer coding of Fushi and Kohaku's relationship any favors. Because the instant things dip towards actual yaoi, the show gets pretty terrifying. Our mortal MC comes as close to death as is possible for him, because Kohaku literally can't control himself. It's like a cautionary tale. Find relief in the arms of a man and you're gonna have a bad time. Making this yet another anime comparing gay sex to a form of death or suicide. But, for better or worse, what happened with Kohaku is like a weird rite of passage that leads to Fushi's resurrection, with a nice power boost, giving him the edge to finally turn the tide in the knocker invasion. The war is won, but after what happened with Kohaku, Fushi loses his old body, and his innocence in the process. It's not subtle, folks. The version of Fushi that the audience has known all this time now only lives inside Kohaku, who only narrowly escapes the kill your gays trope through self-exile, only to off himself and the evil church members to guarantee Fushi's safety as part of the season finale.
I love you, Fushi.
Akira and Kensho. Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. Kensho was Akira's best friend before the world went to shit during the sudden and still unexplained apocalypse. When the phones were back up, Kensho was the only person he calls, as opposed to say his parents who don't even know he's alive. Akira risks life and limb to travel zombie-infested streets to rescue his friend, on the incredibly slim chance he's still alive when he gets there. And the first thing Akira does on arrival is cry his eyes out and apologize for how he acted the last time they were together.
I'm really sorry.
With little left to lose, they have a soul-bearing session and only narrowly escape flesh-eating death when Akira coaxes Kensho to make a figurative and literal leap of faith, both vowing to only live their best lives from now on. Kensho decides this revelation needed to be punctuated with his wang. Get used to this, you're gonna be seeing it a lot, because Buddy is always nude. I'm exaggerating for the sake of a joke, but you see this man's ass more than you see his face, it's crazy. Even when he's trying to lure the zombie shark away from Akira, he gets the cakes out. I've touched on BL and nudity a few times in a few videos, but basically when a male character is nude this often, the show is trying to say something without saying it. The entirety of episode 3 is dedicated to Akira and Kensho, how much they've meant to each other up till now, and how easily their friendship bounced back after time apart. They have the most no chill, no worries, let it hang bro date on the roof you ever saw. They drink beer and fall asleep naked under the stars. I know in Japan, nudity with friends is more about bonding and having no secrets with those closest to you. And the whole scene is so uplifting and heartfelt, you can almost ignore how homoerotic it all is. Episodes 3 through 6 is mainly just them palling around on the roof, eating, sleeping, and playing video games, and marking things off Akira's titular bucket list. Considering the two waifus in this show, it's nothing short of amazing that the show has given them this much quality time together. Even when the plot does kick back in, and they have to venture out into danger once again, the new friends they make along the way don't last, and then it's back to just the two of us immediately after. Someone in the comments once joked that the show doesn't care about anyone else but Akira and Kensho, and I kinda couldn't find the lie in that argument. Fukuzawa and Fukuji. Bungo Stray Dogs, Season 5. Bungo Stray Dogs is another show that has no shortage of romances, usually involving Dazai and whichever twink he is or isn't ignoring that day. The obligatory BL in Season 5 narrows its focus on the Fukus, Sword Daddy Fukuzawa, and Captain of the Hunting Dogs Fukuji. And like all good BL, their friendship goes way back to childhood, as the first real friend either of them ever had. Growing up together and then apart very much shaped the men they'd eventually become. Bingo! Stupid autocorrect. Bungo Season 5 is easily the most plot twist riddled tit-for-tat season of the show, and every step of the way these two are at odds. But them knowing each other so well was always part of the plan. Fukuji's master plan hinges on his lifelong friend being exactly who he is, and he's defeated by Fukuzawa like he knew he would be. But he gets his dying wish, by leaving what he hopes to be a more peaceful world in the capable hands of his best and oldest friend. Even when it's time to stop him or make him pay for his many crimes against humanity, Fukuzawa can't actually kill him. Fukuji knows he could never bring himself to kill his BFF no matter how bad he'd been, so he takes the choice out of his hands. Fukuzawa spent the past 5 seasons being a incredibly stoic guy, but he sobs violently over his oldest friend's still warm body. Dark Schneider and Kalsu. Bastard. The Netflix Bastard revival series is even hornier than the 90s original. Dark Schneider lays hands on any and every female in his orbit, so when the show gets romantic in Season 2, it almost catches you by surprise. Darsh may love his harem, but at the end of the day, he still thinks he's the most beautiful thing on Earth, and the show never lets you forget it. The fourth and final mage Darsh has to deal with before the big bad of the series is Kalsu, the woman-hating pretty boy that Darsh pulls a griffin on in his youth, i.e. a pretty man with white hair treats a handsome wayward orphan like his private property. Their relationship ends up leaning more romantic than may have been intended, partly because Darsh is a problematic stepdad that isn't above raising and bedding his foundlings. So Darsh ends up looking less like Cal's father and more like Cal's daddy. And him belonging to Darsh is far more homoerotic than even I expected. I should have guessed this season would focus on them, considering the key art posters showing them as opposites of each other like every BL couple ever. Anyway, in the time Demon Lord Darsh was killed and resurrected, Cal joined the opposition, which means they have to fight. My, what a lovely day this turned out to be. Yeah, living in this town must absolutely suck. They fight the good fight, but because of how much they've meant to each other in the past, all of Kalsu's plans and ambitions just fly out the window. And after a full season of build-up, the idea of actually having to kill the man he considers his other half is too much for him. So Kalsu stabs himself instead, sparing Darsh because he was the first person to tell him that he needed him. It's a heck of a twist that even Dark Schneider doesn't see coming. If you can't tell, it's all very dramatic. If you've never seen the show, you wouldn't even know that Darsh is usually a selfish, cackling asshole. But he's a different person once someone he loves has been hurt. And Cal's fallen soldier scenes are all tender and romantic, and Darsh cries actual tears for the first time in his 400 years of life.
I'm the one who took you in! I'm the one who found you! You belong to me! Don't go off and die on your own! Can't you hear me? I'm ordering you not to die!
And of course, Kyle is fine to die, if it's for Darsh. Eventually, Metallicana swoops in and takes over Kalsu's body, leaving his mind in limbo, instantly turning him into a damsel in distress that Darsh has to save. He spends the season's final episodes crying and screaming for Cal to wake up. Like, this goes on for 2 episodes, and Cal floats in the nude, dramatically wondering who this weirdly hot man is that keeps calling for him.
Come back, Kalsu. Come back to me.
Luckily, Darsh's voice and high body temperature eventually pull him from death's door. If I had a nickel for every time a dude could only be revived by another cured dude sliding to his DMs, I'd have 4. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it keeps happening. As of now, Season 3 has a tentative release date for July 2024. I'm not sure if Darsh and Kalsu will ever get this much screen time again, but this subplot was wild. Gojo and Geto. Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. The lycomedic tone at the beginning of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 temporarily made me forget just how hard or terrifying the life of a Jujutsu sorcerer could be. Luckily, Geto and Gojo were the type of buddies who have each other's backs. You might think because Gojo's already so overpowered even as a teenager, that he'd never have a reason to worry. But Gojo's the kind of character that could just as easily have been ostracized or isolated because of his power. So I'm glad the show demonstrates the benefit of a good friend. Because even out on difficult assignments, Gojo can rest a little easier knowing Geto is always in his corner. Especially since Geto is the only one who'll notice when even a demigod among men is pushing himself too hard. And when that demigod needs a shoulder to lean on, that shoulder will be Geto's. And don't think for a second their friendship is a one-way street. Gojo provides a lot more than just jokes and protection when it comes to Geto. One day Gojo gets a massive boost in his already monstrous power, so they start sending him out on missions alone. Probably thinking, why send a gun to a gunfight when you have a tank? Unfortunately, that was the beginning of the end for Geto's mental health. Not that his power of eating curses helps either. He and Gojo really balanced each other out, and now that he's not around, Geto has to go on these dangerous missions alone. And without his partner, regardless of strength, Geto feels the full weight of how mentally and spiritually draining his job can be, and how lethal it's been for his peers. He only sees the worst sides of the people he's tasked to protect. He's not eating, he's barely sleeping, and nursing an ever-growing hatred for non-sorcerers. None of this was the case when Gojo was around. In episode 4, when they failed their mission to protect Riko, Gojo goes to a dark place, and Geto has to talk him down from a potentially murderous ledge. Gojo could have done the same for him. Man, f*** them monkeys. At least buy him a drink first. Genocide averted. No one else in the cast, or even his life, could have so effortlessly pulled him back from an emotional brink the way Gojo could have, and vice versa. This is how much they needed each other. But Geto snaps, massacres 112 people, because Gojo wasn't there. Geto kind of falling victim to what I like to call the gay bestie curse is just one more reason this might be the most tragic bromance on this list. Also, don't let anyone tell you that the bury your gay stroke isn't alive and well. As the anime stands now, the only way they get to be together in any capacity is with Geto trapped in his own corpse, and with Gojo essentially buried alive in the world's spookiest Pokeball, and shoved into zombie Geto's pocket for the next century at least. William and Metal, The Faraway Paladin, Seasons 1 and 2. The Faraway Paladin was quick to show itself as a candidate for the in a fantasy setting with my new boyfriend pile that I keep adding to every few months. Before meeting Metal, Will was a slightly lonely boy who knew little of the world. When he finally ventures out on his hero's journey, one of his biggest priorities is just to make some damn friends. After being raised by undead parents, the very first living, breathing person he runs into is Metal. And when he falls in with a bad crowd, Will knows he's too pretty for jail and demands he be spared at his own personal expense. A grateful Metal becomes his very first and best friend. And as an elf who's had to fend for himself, Will ends up relying on his knowledge and his experience to get through the day. Metal even converts to whatever religion Will is by the end of episode 7. After spending the afternoon spilling their innermost thoughts and struggles, even for a 12-episode anime, they get incredibly close incredibly fast. As a paladin, Will walks the earth using his strength and magic to right wrongs and bring blessings where they're most needed. And working with Metal only makes his job that much easier. They make a very effective team, and combined can do more and save more than an entire army, making them the BL power couple of the season. They have the sort of yin-yang, give-and-take dynamic that many healthy bromances have, and Metal gives Will what he sorely lacks: strategy and companionship. In fact, some of the best things about this ship is just how hard Will works so that Metal can live a better, more carefree life, where he feels safe enough to look forward to the future and not just live in the moment because he could die tomorrow. By season 2, not only are they looking ahead, they flat out plan the trajectory of their entire lives around each other.
At some point along the way, all half-elves have to make a life-altering decision. And my choice is to see what becomes of your accomplishments.
I might not be able to do anything all that great, though.
Oh, come on, you're already enough of a legend.
I bet you'll be a legend.
Yep, the both of us. Doesn't sound too bad, right?
Yeah.
Most episodes start with a Will and Metal scene, and I probably don't even need to tell you this, but they're together a lot. And especially in season 1, the other characters in Will's D&D party have to fight amongst themselves for the remaining screen time. which only makes it glaringly obvious that this anime is a complete sausage fest. This is not a complaint. The few women that have been in the show are either too old, too young, a one-shot character we may never see again, or secretly dead. I love how the show can barely be bothered to give them female love interests. In fact, they wait until the last 10 minutes of the final episode of Season 2 to actually set up even one woman the MC could be shipped with.
ウィル、幸せにな。
Momose and Shirosaki. My new boss is Goofy. The entire premise of My New Boss is Goofy is abused salaryman Momose escapes a toxic work environment and falls into the doting arms of his disarmingly unserious boss Shirosaki, who is so pure and unproblematic that in a single episode he starts repairing Momose's tortured soul. And every episode after, Momose thanks his lucky stars for finding him, when he's not finding himself on the business end of one BL misunderstanding after another. They even end up moving in together at the end of episode 6 with the flimsiest justification possible. On top of being an absolute cinnamon roll, Shirosaki has always been a sympathetic ear for Momose's emotional baggage. He sees him as a precious thing that must be protected at all costs, and Momose seems to like everything about him. Not gonna lie, I was kind of obsessed with their cohabitation. Watching them act like newlyweds in their starter home splitting chores gives me life. They spend all, and I do mean all, their time together in and out of work. The show should probably win an award for how astoundingly pure and drama-free their time together has been. It even features the most wholesome circle jerk you ever saw. Momose and Shirosaki have such amazing chemistry that as early as episode 7, actually no, the entire time if I'm being perfectly honest, you start to wonder if the show's really going to cross that line or not. With the exception of the one clearly pansexual character, my new boss tends to avoid labels of any kind. But he is the one who can plainly see how much they enjoy living together, and as usual, the show leaves a lot implied but never said. By the finale, it doesn't seem to matter if either Shirosaki or Momose identify as gay or bi, but it's crystal clear that in this short time, they've come to deeply value the life and habits they've built together, and are moved to actual tears when it might end. Momose finally finds a new place, but it's a struggle when he physically has to leave the premises. The silences have never been more awkward than they are now, and filled with all the things they feel but never say. Eventually, Momose finds the strength to pull himself away. So in the end, he does move out to go live directly across from him. Lol, psych, we worried for nothing. From start to finish, the vibe has been immaculate, and this is the kind of energy and probably the kind of representation other anime friendships should be striving for. And that's my list. What was your favorite bromance of 2023? I actually whittled this list down to 12 because the other 8 are coming in future videos and I'm switching to a listicle format. I'll definitely be making this a recurring series as a nice yearly wrap-up from now on. A way to celebrate all the tender moments and husbandos we've met along the way. Anyway, here's to the new year. I've been Green Tea Gal. Allow me to play you out.